Hello, and welcome back to Swinging at Shins, your Premier League podcast from across the pond. Today you have myself and Woodsy. Woodsy, how are you doing?
Brother, what is up? I am so stoked that my team's doing well. And every time I think about them doing well, I'm like, well shit, we got an international break, so they're gonna be crap after they come out of this thing. So
It's very
it's
true
usually how
because
it
then they
goes.
got to play a 7:30 game too, which I
Yeah,
was
against
right and
against
laughed at.
against the league leaders and the most doped up team in the league. Yeah. So yeah, well it can only go downhill from here, right?
Yeah, well, or it could go uphill. Come on, have a little
Listen,
faith in the faith.
listen, I don't know about that one. I'm a little nervous with the injuries and stuff, so we'll see.
Well,
We'll see
look,
what
if
happens.
Chelsea can do it, you can do it. Liverpool can do it. Excuse me. And then they
Yeah,
can
no,
feel your
I couldn't
essence
do it.
from
You could
across
see me
the
trying to
Atlantic.
defend Erling Haaland. Are you kidding me? He'd have 12 goals in the first 5 minutes.
That's giving you a lot of credit then.
That's true. That's true. You're spot on.
All right, let's hop into the match day scores here for match day 12. Opening it off was Wolves and Spurs, and Wolves won, surprisingly. They do this a lot where they pick one team, come from behind in the last 10 minutes of stoppage time, and go on to win the game. They won 2-1 at the Marlemew. Arsenal won 3-1 against Burnley. Crystal Palace lost at home against Everton 2-3. Man United gritted out a 1-0 victory against Luton Town at home. Surprisingly, Bournemouth beat Newcastle, a very battered Newcastle, I'll say, but a win's a win, and 3 points are 3 points, and they're out of the bottom.
That was my favorite game to watch of the weekend, by the way. That game was fantastic.
You know what? I'll get to it, but I think there was one better, and it's not the one you think it is either.
I know what you're gonna say.
Oh, really? Take a shot. Just go ahead. Guess what I'm gonna. Yeah.
I'm gonna go Brighton Everton because I thought that was actually one of the better ones too.
Who?
The Brighton Everton.
Oh,
Or I'm sorry, the Crystal Palace Everton game. That's what I'm thinking.
Dude, get out of my head. Anyway,
I knew it had Everton in it. That's all.
Sunday's matches: Villa beat Fulham at home 3-1. Brighton draw Sheffield United. Good for them. Pick up a point. Not good for Brighton. Something might be up with them. We'll get into that later. Liverpool handle Brentford 3-0 at home. West Ham win at home as well, 3-2 against Forest, who put up a dogfight in that match. That was another good match. And the one everybody loved because it was an 8-goal stunner. Chelsea 4, Man City 4 in a knockout drag-out match. So
that was the game that was for the the American football people that get pissed off about no scoring. That was for them. But the caveat was it had to still end in a tie. So you get your goals. You get your goals, This game,
but
if it's football, the American football, it finishes 28-28 tie.
Yeah.
So let's just be honest. That's what it is,
Yep. Well, that and it, we got the goals, so the Americans love it, and it's still a draw, so it counts as European. So it doesn't, we get a little mix of everything.
We tick all the boxes, Aaron. We tick all the boxes.
Personally, I didn't. Let's just hop into it. So, what were your thoughts on it?
Great game. So I originally missed the game. I did not get a chance to watch the game.
Yeah.
Had a big had a lot to do on Sunday afternoon. So went about that, but got a chance to watch it back later that night, and I tried to stay away from what was going on. I knew at one point it was 3-2 City. So at that point I was like, all right, I'll watch it whenever.
Yep.
Honestly, one of the more entertaining games of the year. I definitely get where people are coming from that.
Mm-hmm.
But the quality of football, to be honest with you, I thought was quite crap.
I
thought defending on both ends. That was the worst game I think I've ever seen Ruben Diaz play for City, and long may it continue, at least for one more week. Mark Cucurella. I don't know what the hell he is, other than a hair model and the Troy, the the Spanish Troy Polamalu. I don't know what he actually does.
He's cousin in.
Right? I don't know what he actually does. It just stuns me that Chelsea spent over 60 million pounds for that dude. Absolutely useless. Even though I will say that I do think that Erling Haaland penalty early on was kind of soft, and the funniest part was before that game, Liverpool was on. I was at the bar at Wolves with a bunch of the Liverpool fans there.
Yep.
And we were joking around for a good 20, 25 minutes about fouls and stuff like that. And I go because we were talking about the Virgil van Dijk Luton call from a week and a half ago.
Yep.
And how Virgil got taken down in the box and nothing was called. And I told the guys, I was like, listen, if that's City, they're getting that pen every day of the week. They already got it against United. I guarantee you they get more of those this year. And they're all laughing. And then I got 7 text messages at about 7 p.m. that night, roughly after I turned my phone on. Yeah, you were right.
Yeah.
You're right. So I was like, okay. But no, I thought the game, it was definitely one of the more entertaining games of the season so far. I would say it's definitely easily top 3 by the standards I think that the league has set so far. I mean, we're getting some really good matchups this year. I've heard some people say it's the best all time. Don't know what the hell they're smoking, but yeah. But that's
there's a few World Cup. I think there's a few World Cup matches in there that are a lot better, but
I mean, I'm just talking Prem. I'm just talking in the Premier League. I don't think the best game I've ever seen in the Premier League is I'll give you my top 3. I think there's.
I swear to God, if they're all Liverpool.
2 of them are.
No, doesn't count. Discount it.
2 of them are. But when I say the two, one of them I wouldn't want to put in there, but I am. The Arshavin game, where the Arsenal-Liverpool 4-4, Arshavin scored 4. That game, I mean, that was one of the best games I think I've ever seen. The old one, actually, I mean, I was 4 years old when it happened, 5 years old when it happened. But the Liverpool-Newcastle 1996 game, I think the final score was 3-4. That thing was, I mean, I've watched the game probably a dozen times over, and every single time I know it's coming, and I'm like, holy crap, I can't believe something like that happened. And the other game that I actually thought was probably one of the best games I've ever seen. I'm still a little hesitant to say it, but it was not Newcastle. Losing my thought here. Oh, the Aguero game.
Oh my God!
The
yes.
The Aguero game is the one.
That is
the one
a classic.
I'm trying to think of the opponent, and I kept thinking Newcastle, but it was QPR.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are probably the best 3 games I think I've witnessed. I mean, obviously one of them I had to rewatch because I was fucking, but yeah, I think those are the best 3 games. This one I don't think even touches those. And honestly, I think this is probably the second or third best game of the year.
Who would be your first, or who's ahead of it? I should say.
Newcastle, Liverpool, by far. The Liverpool go down to 10 men and score 2 goals in the last 5 minutes. That's pretty insane.
I can get behind that.
And then honestly, I thought the Spurs Liverpool, despite what happened, that's probably one of the better games this year. I mean, yeah, VAR took over the game, but I mean, it was still, you had a 9-man Liverpool, all the way to the death for the most part. So I thought that was a pretty decent game. There's a bunch of games this year that have been fantastic, though. I mean, the Newcastle Arsenal game, you can even throw that in there,
Yeah, that was definitely I actually like that match a lot. Yeah.
Great game.
Yeah, I agree.
What about you? What's your take on this one? And then I got to hear what your favorite games you watched in the.
Oh my God, I don't have that on the rip already. I can tell you right now, we can just exclude that one. I got one, and it's gonna. I got 2 actually. Okay, maybe I can think of something. Anyway, back to this match. Back to this match. I thought this was definitely a poor defending match kind of game, and it was open the whole entire time, which people like. It was kind of watching like a Leeds match, essentially. No defending, up and down. It was a basketball match, and there's nothing wrong with that. I have nothing against that. It's pleasing to the eye, but when you get into the nitty gritty of everything, it really wasn't. I didn't think it was the best match of the week personally.
It was a Bielsa-esque game, I guess.
Seriously, honestly, it was. I thought Chelsea did a good job in responding every time City responded. I thought in the same aspect, I thought City did the same thing in return. And the match was kind of, it was sloppy. It didn't really have any kind of consistency. But that's it's not a bad thing that happened either, because then it shows that, there's chinks in City's armor right now. People can take points away from City this year. And that's not something that's been said in the past.
What do you think? I got to ask you, because you brought it up now. What do you think is, because I'm still not quite 100% sure. What's the weakest part of that City team? I don't know if I can pinpoint one. But I agree with what you're saying. Like they definitely aren't they're not last year's City team. And
no,
if
not even the previous years.
Or no De Bruyne, I get that. But with what's going on, I can't. I definitely don't see them as good as they were last year, but I can't pinpoint what it is.
I don't even think they're as good as 2 years ago. And actually, I had a true false based off of that, to be honest. So, but since we've already dug into it, I'm not going to use it. But yeah, I think this City team is kind of, and I don't even know, even with De Bruyne, that they would be as strong as they have been. And I think that it's their defense right now that they're pressing too far ahead. They're having Gvardiol playing such an advanced role where he was playing center back, and now they're expecting him to play out at left back and get into the box and make crosses and stuff like that. I think there's some players who may not understand their roles currently right now. I think Doku is one of those players right now who was a great signing, and I still think he's a phenomenal signing, and he's going to pan out eventually. But I think when he gets the ball, he needs to make it all about himself a little bit, and it kind of stops with him. And yeah, he had that 4-assist match. Was it last Matchday 11, I think, or something like that? And that was phenomenal. But outside of that, I haven't really seen him do anything else. So there's been a question mark above that, and it's one of those times of the season where City have this lull. They lull you to sleep. This is the lull. Watch it, because in January they're gonna catch fire again, and they're gonna rip off like 8-10 matches where they win. And they're just going to handle everybody. And then they're going to be crowned the Premier League champion all over again, because they turn it on. They know when they need to turn it on. And that's the scary part of this team. They can just walk it in, and it's disgusting.
It is. And I think you're spot on. I mean, that's exactly kind of what I think they're doing. And it's almost every year. They did it last year to Arsenal. They did it. They've done it to my team twice. At least over there, maybe you can kind of argue 3 times. But I would honestly say that I think you're right. I think defending is probably where the majority of their lapses, I'm not going to call them deficiencies, but more of like tiny lapses come from.
Yeah.
Gvardiol, I think you're right. I feel bad for the kid, because I think he's an exquisite, like he's a top flipping talent. One of the better when he's playing a central role, he's fantastic. Like he's really that good. I do think he's being asked to do something he's not comfortable doing, stepping out to the left hand side. I mean, he's got the skill set to do it. He's done it successfully, but I think at a consistent rate that you're describing, like there's nothing that Pep can do to help the kid out, with being comfortable going forward. That's just something he's going to have to learn,
Yeah. So when I think they get John Stones back, and he's going to, the way Stones had played last year, and that 3-2, whatever numbers you want to make up at the end.
Kind of like that marauding role where he kind of got out of the central defense and pushed a little bit up.
Think they'll start to shift Gvardiol back a little bit more and play him as a more of a defender style and have that cross ball pings across the pitch there, or making those line breaking passes. And I think that's what he's exceptional at. They wouldn't have brought him in for any other reason other than the fact that he's actually a really good defender too. On top of that all, his ability to be able to break lines and transition the ball from the back to the wings is really his strong suit. And he's not able to show that off because he's in a different style of play and position right now. So once they get Stones back, that's going to change. And he might be able to be a little more comfortable playing in the position that he's normally played in.
And they're saying he may not be ready for the Liverpool City match, John Stones.
It's possible.
Knock on wood, I hope that happens. I don't want them being at full tilt because you saw, I think what we saw there kind of on Sunday was the game. I've never seen a game pass Rodri by as fast as it did. I didn't think he was as effective as he normally is. So I think John Stones is actually the glue to that puzzle. And if you had asked me that flipping 5 months ago, 6 months ago, I would have said, I'd have laughed at you. But honestly, the way Pep's got this team going, with the way that they can, fluently just rotate and shift and move their positions and still create passing lanes, both in their own half and in the third, it's extraordinary. And I can't believe I'm saying that John Stones is actually part of the breaking down portion of the opposition, and he is. I think he's probably the outside of possibly Erling Haaland, and maybe this year I would even consider Ederson. Ederson, I think, is having a pretty damn good year. But I would consider John Stones probably the most important player on that team. Obviously, they're going to get goals. You take Haaland out the side, they're still going to score. Rodri, I think, is the other one that's really important. But you saw what can happen when he's not on his game, and that's exactly what happened against Chelsea.
Yep.
So I mean that's where I'll leave that one with them, because I do think you're right. They're kind of in their low, just a matter of time before they come out.
Yep. Now they're vulnerable right now, and I think that's the time everybody needs to take advantage of them. Now let's pivot to Chelsea, because there was another team in this dogfight other than City here. My take on them right now is I think they're starting to find their stride. 8 goals in 2 matches, and they were both very tough teams to play, even though they did get handed a little bit of relief in the Spurs match. But still, you got to put the ball in the back of the net, in order for it to be a goal. So City, do they feel like they're turning it around? Because I think so.
I don't know. I don't know exactly. I think the jury's still out on Chelsea for now. I see what you're saying. I mean, obviously the goal tally over the last couple of games has been pretty astronomical for them, considering what their output is in front of goal. Their output's not very great. I don't know if I'm going to jump on them being turning it around yet. Okay. This was a big match against City. This was huge.
This was a litmus test.
It really was. It really was. Because honestly, going into this match, I was like, okay, City 3 points. It's pretty much a walk in the park. What I think Chelsea is kind of finally realizing is that their team is really, playing the balls in behind. Getting players to get in behind that defense is the way you want to break them down. You got so many guys in that squad that have speed. Raheem Sterling, very fast. Nico Jackson, very fast. Mudryk, when he's on, what's his best skill set? Being quick. Speed. That's what these guys have. They may not have the finishing ability that guys like Haaland and others have in the league, but that will come with time. And if you give them enough chances, they're going to put them away. And that's what I think is happening with Nico Jackson. He's hot right now. But the thing is, what he's doing is he's getting in behind. It's easy to get, he did the easy part against Spurs. He got in behind 9 men. That should be, cake for him. Yeah. But he showed it. I mean, at least, the second half against City, that he can actually do that job. Now, Christopher Nkunku's coming back, so I'd love to see the dynamic there. I guess he's about a week or two away, possibly starting Chelsea's first match. I think it's actually against Spurs against Newcastle, coming back from the international break. So that'll be an interesting one to watch. But I don't know if I can guarantee that they're back yet, Aaron. I gotta see a little bit more. They still have a tough road ahead. They've got Newcastle. I believe they've got Brentford. No, they just played Brentford. I'm sorry. I think they got United coming up recently too.
I'm getting there. Hold on. Just give me just a second. So their next 5 matches are Newcastle away. So that's a very tough atmosphere. If you're an Arsenal fan or listen to this, you would know.
Got to pull for a draw on that one.
Extremely hard. They play Brighton away, which honestly I think there's some problems with Brighton as well, but we'll get into that.
You never know though. After international break, you never know. Something switches with Deserby.
They play United at Stamford Bridge. They play Everton at home. God dang. They play Everton at Goodison Park, and then Sheffield United, Newcastle. Wait a minute. Interesting. Sorry, I thought there was something else squeezed in there. But yeah, that's their next 5 matches.
And remember, they have no Champions League, no European Cup. They might have an EFL Cup game that's going to be squeezed in at some point.
I almost tripped into that because they do play Newcastle at home.
That's what it is. But it's on the 20th of December or something like that, right?
Almost 19th. Very good 19th. Guess.
Yeah. I know a lot of those games are being played that weekend, which is weird.
I'm glad Villa is not involved in that.
I mean, it might be the only. It's funny, I was talking about that the other day. I go, guys. I was talking to my buddies. I go, guys, if Liverpool is going to win a trophy this year, we have the EFL Cup right in front of us. There's no City. There's no Arsenal. There's no team that's going to knock you out like Villa or Brighton. So I was like, if we're gonna go for one for the hell of it, let's just do that. Like, makes more sense. Chelsea and Newcastle are gonna knock each other out. Newcastle's got a boatload of injuries. Chelsea's got a boatload of injuries. They're both, not in the greatest form at the moment. So,
I want to see, and I don't know how this knockout's gonna play. Oh, it could happen. I want to see a Merseyside derby
final. That's what we want.
I really want to see that.
We've had.
I could definitely get behind that. Because who's left? The 6 teams that are left in it are Everton, Fulham, Chelsea, Newcastle, Liverpool, West Ham, Portsvale, and Middlesbrough.
I just hope to God if we get through, if we beat West Ham, because West Ham's not a walkover by any means. They beat Arsenal to get there. Yeah. But if Liverpool beats West Ham, my God, just give me one of Port Vale or Middlesbrough just to get to the final. Just give me one of those two. I can throw a B squad out there and cakewalk to the final. My God,
you're not going to be that lucky.
Hey, we haven't been that lucky before, so
that's what I'm saying.
I fully expect to get whoever loses Newcastle or whoever wins Newcastle Chelsea.
It's possible. All right, let's pivot back to Chelsea. I think that they are on the right path to being successful, and I think there's things that Pochettino and his crew have finally kind of set in their mind and the players' minds that he is trying to instill. I think they're trying to finally use Nicholas Jackson in the right way, like you said, to get behind. I think they're also trying to keep Nicholas Jackson more center, so he doesn't wander about because he knows his wingers are going to be available. I think also the team is starting to gel a little bit better with each other. I mean, you got to think that at least 70% of the squad is new, and they're still trying to learn each other's tendencies and stuff like that. So, there's promise with this Chelsea squad, unfortunately, as much as I don't like to say that or hear that. I'm sure people, unless you're a Chelsea fan, want to hear that. But, they're getting it together, but we have to see what more they have. And I agree with you on that part.
I actually really like what you said there about the positioning of Chelsea, because you gotta for people that don't watch a lot of Chelsea or a lot of Premier League over the last couple of years, you look at Chelsea's wingers right now and look at their strikers. Their wingers all come from clubs where they occupied just outside the sides of the 18s. That was their realm. Raheem Sterling, Mudryk was the same way when he was with Shakhtar. Um, you, uh, Pulisic actually was the only one that was inverted at times.
Yeah, yeah.
So I look at them now, and they have all these wingers that want to stay wide, work out wide, and that's what they do. And realizing you're right, Nico Jackson, like stop trying to be the guy that does everything up front and just do the guy that does the simple things and stay central. And you're right, he's actually finally doing that. But obviously, I think the ability to get in behind certain players and I think is key. But I got to ask you this: what's your take on the Ruben Dias penalty at the end of the game?
I actually just saw that before we hopped on here. I do actually think it's a pen.
I
I
got people
mean,
telling me it's not, and I'm like, that's as clear as day, right?
yeah, that's a pen for me.
It's
Like,
just
it's more of
stupid.
a pen than Haaland's pen earlier. And
Yes.
I understand both pens. Trust me. I like as a smaller. I'm 5'8", but you get a taller offensive player, 6 foot. You're going to get a little more handsy with him because you need to position yourself in a manner to give you. Well, lack of a better term, better positioning. So once he gets around goal side on you, it's so much harder to reposition yourself into a better defensive opportunity. And the shirt pulling was automatic. It was. I understand that both ways, Kukurea and Haaland were both shirt tugging, but once Haaland got past, the shirt pulling still continued. And yes, Haaland is, I don't know, 6'4" and 190 pounds soaking wet. But Kukure is 5'7", and he's also probably much smaller. So you try to get anything you can on him without giving him, a pen, and unfortunately that happened. But
I think you were generous on Holland's weight.
you think so? Do you think he's bigger or smaller? Because I
I
have
think
no
he's big.
idea.
I think he's linebacker size, man.
You think so?
I think he's
See.
closer to 230, 240.
I
Easy.
have no idea. Oh God, I don't think they run like 10 miles a match. I don't think they're that.
I know, but I think he's so built and so big. Like I think it's a
No.
lot of muscle. Is what
Okay.
it is. But I
I
think
have
he's
no idea.
that dude could play linebacker for the Giants any day, man. My team sucks.
I could take
You
it.
know?
I would appreciate that.
It's like anybody's better than what I got now.
I know. I feel your pain too. We'll move to a different team here because I saw this funnily enough on T-Foil, and it came across organically, and it was kind of, and I'm going to paraphrase here. It's more like, what's wrong with Brighton? Have Brighton been found out or something like that? And I came across it organically, and this was after I had already typed in our template, is Brighton stalling? And I was like, oh, that's cool. At least somebody else notices that Brighton's having a little bit of a problem as well. And I'm glad we all came to the same conclusion. And I personally think that Brighton is stalling in the sense that they don't have the same quality of players as they did last season. You lost two big names. You lost Caicedo and you lost McAllister. And then on top of that, you lost Julio Enciso to injury. So though Enciso was supposed to be your guy to step in for McAllister, they kind of didn't really have a Caicedo step-in role person, but they certainly would be able to manage getting away with it. But
they bought Baliba from, I think it was Lille. I might be wrong. Maybe it's Monaco. It's one of the French sides. But they bought Baliba, and a lot of people, I think, thought that he was going to step in right away, obviously with the hole from Caicedo. But I don't think he's quite there yet. He's good. Don't get me wrong. But Baliba is not quite what, the finished product almost that Caicedo was.
Yeah.
But you're right. They tried, but the guys aren't really quite what they were.
Like, so they really put a lot of stock in Dahoud. They put a lot of stock in Billy Gilmore making
Yeah,
their next step. I think their defense is still fine. Lewis Dunk's an exceptional center back. I think
I
Joe
love
Veltman
Van
is
Hecke. I love
uh,
Van Hecke. That kid
the
is going to be
stupid.
he's so young,
Yeah,
just a freaking stud of a defender right there.
as Stupinian has been injured, so there's a big piece that they use a lot, and him and Matoma have a lot of connection with each other. So you're kind of seeing Matoma being double teamed essentially, and not being able to use his pace as much as he used to with McAllister in there and being able to ping the ball and garner a lot of attention. Uh, they Ferguson's been out injured a little bit off and on. João Pedro is I think he's a good signing, but I also think he could be a miss too. Um, there's definitely a hit boom or bust with Pedro. Ansu Fati still kind of has to prove it to me. He
Yeah.
he seems like he has all the pieces that are there. It just needs to get game time. I don't know if they've been found out. Brighton, they're still getting a ton of possession. They're just not getting the goals as much as they used to. And teams are kind of not falling for their artificial transition anymore. And that's because they don't have the players. And what I'm trying to theme this up about is losing two big players for your squad is extremely hard to get over. And the fact that they're sitting sixth. Give me a second, unless you know right off.
They're around that area.
They're eighth. I was right. The fact that they're still sitting eighth is a testament to De Zerbi and his coaching staff, and I think they'll be all right still. I'm not entirely sure how their season's going to lay out, but I think Brighton will still be okay. How do you feel about Brighton?
I agree actually with everything you said. I think I actually think I don't really have to say much. The only thing I would really add to that is, obviously you lose those players, and now this team is in Europe, and they're expected to compete on multiple fronts here that they've never really been able to do before. So you take away their two best players from last year. You also have De Zerbi, who likes to rotate. So if you look at the amount of times that Evan Ferguson has started, I mean, he'd be starting for my squad every single week. That dude is an incredible young talent. And honestly, he's one of the guys that you look to be the next Harry Kane. That's what he reminds me of.
That's
the ability to hit a ball from outside the 18, the ability to pass the ball, the hold up play, the getting in behind. He does it all. I don't know if I can find another young striker outside of Erling Haaland quite like him. And he reminds me so much of Harry Kane. So the ability for De Zerbi to rotate those guys, I think, is hurting them more in the Premier League, and is still, it's not quite all there yet in the Europa League. They have lost a game in the Europa League at this point, so I don't quite know exactly what's their MO for this year. What do they want to get out of it? Because obviously you can compete possibly and get top four with this squad. You can. It's absolutely doable. But the thing is, what do you kind of throw into the side for that? You're obviously going to throw aside the EFL Cup. You're probably going to throw aside the FA Cup. The Europa League is probably going to be your mainstay. But your big thing needs to be, no matter what, to stay in those European places. 7th, 6th, 5th, whatever it is, 4th possibly. That should be their goal, and I think they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot here, not playing their best sides. I think, in my opinion, in the Premier League, coming out of the gate. I mean, there's the game against Aston Villa a few weeks back, a month or so back. Like, obviously they lost that game pretty big. I think it was 5-1 was the score, and 6-1, and they showed a lot of fight. They played well, but you could obviously see that last bit was missing, and that last bit being the attack. So I don't think that the constant rotation is benefiting them like it would the bigger sides in Europe, like a Liverpool, like a Man City, a Chelsea, for instance, Arsenal. Like there's certain teams that can rotate and still hold the same vigor in their attack and solidity in their defense. This is not a team that can do that quite yet. I would say probably their best chance of doing that might be next year, if they can hold these guys here. And Ciso, like you said, comes back from the knee injury. So I think they're not quite what they were last year. They're not as bad as people I think say they are, but they're kind of putting themselves in limbo. Are they contenders or pretenders? We don't know yet.
Yeah.
We don't know yet, but they're not what they were last year.
So I have a little fun thought here. Who would you rather manage? So I'll give you teams, and you just give me, would you rather Brighton or the other team?
Would I rather be the manager?
Yes. So let's say you're managing Brighton, and you get these offers. Would you stay or would you go? That's what I'm trying to put here.
Gotcha.
So if we'll say West Ham call,
I'm staying at Brighton.
Staying at Brighton. What about Newcastle?
I'm going to Newcastle. They got the money.
Okay.
They got the money and they got the resources.
Let's just say, gosh, I can't really do that either. I was gonna put it in a vacuum and just be 11-11. No, nothing else is. But I can't.
I'd probably still take Newcastle, unfortunately.
Okay.
As much as I hate Anthony Gordon, I like the defense. When Sven Botman's healthy, I think he's probably one of the top 3 center backs in the Prem.
That's fair. Chelsea call you?
See, that's a tough one.
I wish I did that one instead of.
No, you build up. You built up to this one because this might be one of the harder ones actually. I would stay. Because I know my 11 that I can put out with Brighton can compete with Chelsea's, and I know as a club I know I have the financial stability to make one of these guys really good and then shove them off to Chelsea for 100 million pounds anyway.
Funnily enough, we do get to find out how that match ends up in a couple weeks. So
yes,
that's kind of funny.
That's actually good. That's probably the hardest one. I don't know if you can come up with one better than that.
I don't think I can, to be honest, because I think
I'm going to throw one at you. Can I throw one at you?
Go ahead. This is an open.
Aston Villa or Brighton?
I'm taking Villa. There's no come on. I have the whole end. I have the stadium right here.
Yeah. If you had told me Aston Villa or Brighton, I still would have took Villa. I would have taken Villa.
I'm going to be honest with you. That's why I didn't say it, because I think Villa are a better squad than Brighton currently.
I think Villa, I'll be honest, I hope we get to them at some point. If not today, definitely in the next episode. But I want to dive into that team because honestly, that team doesn't have as many weaknesses as people. When you look on the roster, there's not as many weaknesses as you really think there is.
Well, you see screw it. We'll just hop into it right now. We'll make it a Villa segment for a moment.
Let's do it. Villa.
If they made bigger signings, like Newcastle, like Man United, and I mean bigger signings as in spending more money. I don't necessarily mean spending money in the right ways or big name players. I mean just splash signings. I think they would probably get a little bit more light. But you have these players, Ezri Konsa. You have Alex Moreno, Matty Cash, these kind of players who aren't necessarily in their Matty Cash he's always in his Polish squad. He's the Polish Cafu. And as he just got a call up to the English squad, and that was only because of injury. And so they have a lot of players that aren't really on an international light, so they don't get a lot of light shown to them. And Douglas Luiz, who's just finally blossoming into a Premier League, top level Premier League midfielder, is starting to finally has gotten his attention of players around and teams around. And Ollie Watkins is the third highest goal scorer in the Premier League, and he doesn't get talked about at all. He's also in there for contributions too, but that's a totally different thing. Leon Bailey actually has been pretty solid this year. And if I got to be honest with you, Moussa Diaby's kind of been a little slacking lately, personally, from what I've seen from him.
Player, man.
I do too. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love Diaby. I just think he's been a little slacking lately, and I think that he's a little confused on his role, and it needs to be defined a little bit better. Who's another player?
I'll tell you what. I think I'm gonna say it right now. Ollie Watkins needs to be considered, if he continues the way he's playing right now. Needs to be considered in Player of the Year.
I agree.
I agree. I know, but I don't understand the hate he gets. I actually really like Ollie Watkins he's a hell of a player. I don't know what he's like as a human. I don't follow him that much, but he's probably as good a human as he is a player. So I think he's a fantastic player. And he's finally got a coach that believes in his skill set and plays to his skill set. I don't know if he's had a coach like that yet. I really don't. Throughout his entire career, even previously, I think he was at Was it Brentford before?
It was Brentford, but I couldn't remember if he had Thomas Frank or if that was a Dean Smith still. But
I think he might
have had Frank for a little bit, but only for a hot moment.
But that is a match made in heaven with those two guys, Unai Emery and Ollie Watkins. I mean, I know there's a lot of temptation around, selling Watkins in January or selling him next summer and getting bank for him. They're obviously going to get, you're talking minimum 60 million, I think. Right. So I would think that if I'm Aston Villa and I want to succeed and continue to play in Europe, this guy and this coach need to be stuck together. You need to almost do what you're seeing a lot of other clubs do right now with their coach and with their main player. Ollie Watkins, to me, is probably he's the main guy for you guys, right? Yeah. I would basically say this. You see what Liverpool does with Klopp. You see what Arsenal's doing with Arteta. Are they backing their managers? Yes. Financially, stability-wise, that's what they need. But they're getting everybody to believe in a philosophy. And I think Aston Villa is probably the closest team to the Arsenals, the Liverpools, the teams that are notoriously in the top six to infiltrate that right now. I think they are. They're the closest team because what you got in Unai Emery is you got a coach that wins in Europe. So if you can continuously get in Europe, you got to believe within your club. Oh, we got a chance. Let's go get it. Let's go see if we can win something now. Let's go get some silverware. And then you also have guys that are competing at one of the top levels in the world in the Premier League. Ollie Watkins. I really love Ezri Konsa, by the way. Pau Torres surprised the hell out of me the last couple of weeks.
He's so good.
He's coming around. I honestly, his first 2-3 weeks, I was like, this guy looks like he belongs back in Spain in a soccer league. But he has definitely turned the corner. A lot of their guys, Diaby, clearly you can see the talent in him. The quickness is off the charts. There's not a bad player in their first 11, maybe first 12, 13 players, I would say. There's not a bad player there. So I would honestly say that if there's one team that could really upset this year and do what Brighton did last year and really upset the top six, dude, it's your Villa, man. Like, it's not even close. It's your Villa.
I would do one better. I think they would be Newcastle. I don't
See,
even think they
that's
would.
that I cannot wait for that rematch because that first one I don't like first match weeks. I take zero from the first match week. I'd
Yeah,
probably take zero from the first two, to be honest with you. But the way a team progresses throughout the year is where you want to see. Villa has gone nowhere but up from here, right?
yep,
Newcastle's done what? They've been like a roller coaster the whole way. They're up at one point. They beat Arsenal, and then they come back down to earth and they lose to Bournemouth 2-0.
yep.
So you never know what you're going to get from them right now. So right now, I honestly can't. I don't know when the matchup is between those two, but I honestly could believe that's probably going to be one of, if not the more anticipated matches throughout the second half of the year. Because I think right now, I I'm glad Liverpool got Aston Villa at home out of the way because I wouldn't want to play them. But
Hmm.
the bad part is that means we only got to go to Aston
Yeah,
Villa at the end of the
I was.
year. So it's gonna suck either way. So
Yeah, I was gonna say that Villa need to really figure out their away form right now. That's really
yeah,
the one thing that's holding them back. Their home form currently just they're on a 15 all comps 15 match win streak right now.
flawless.
They absolutely crush it at home, and that's a good foundation to start on. And I think once we figure out how to win away, and I think that comes down to a little game plan. And I don't really want to get into it too much on here, but I'd rather get onto the Villa. But I think there's some little miscommunication that goes on for away matches versus home matches, and once that gets sorted out, I think that Villa will be okay. To answer your Newcastle Villa, they play January 30th on a Tuesday, so we're going up on a Tuesday for all those millennials who remember Ray
And you
Shermer.
know what? Actually, I believe the following day, Liverpool Chelsea
That that's
first.
pretty money.
Hey,
That's
which is
money.
also first match week of the year.
Jeez. So yeah, I think Villa have. I obviously think Villa, with my rose-colored glasses on, have the qualities that they need, and I think that every additional person that is brought into this club is only going to make them better and be able to jump farther and get up into and crack that top six, whatever that technically means for people at this point in time.
Let me ask you this quick before we move on. Does Aston Villa spend in January, and if so, where?
Yes, they spend in January, but I think they're going to be super meticulous on what they do, and I think it's going to be between a right back. Matty Cash is, I like him. I think that we could do better, and I think he's more of a bench player for most other clubs at this point. And I think if we do anything else, we might look to the probably look probably look at another striker. Honestly, everybody needs strikers, and it like you wouldn't have thought after Newcastle had signed Isak that Colin Wilson was going to be an outstanding player.
Yeah.
Still, guy scores 15 goals, and he like shows out for every match, and that's the
Who's
kind of
your
player
backup
I'd
number
want.
nine?
I'm sorry.
Who's your backup number nine? If you don't mind me asking, I can't remember.
It technically rotates. It's John Duran if he's not
Oh yeah, yeah,
injured
yeah.
or
That's right.
throwing a temper tantrum. One of those two.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I like Duran, and he's got all the raw talent there, but I think we just need somebody who's a little bit more experienced as well. Uh, and it just doesn't hurt to um, sign another depth piece realistically.
yeah.
And so I think
Are
I
you
think
worried?
we'll be okay.
Are you worried about losing Douglas Luiz or anybody in
No,
January or
no,
no?
I think they'll stay. He signed a new contract at the end of the transfer window last season.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think something like that. Yeah, it was under Gerard, so it was last season that he signed a new contract. So if anything, I I think he likes Villa Personally, I think that they've finally got a good squad cooking, so it's like why leave a good home? So we'll see. I don't think he's going anywhere, but we'll see. Let's just move into the Spurs. I don't have a good transition for this, so
that's a Spursy transition. That's a Spursy transition as you can come up with.
I don't really have a transition. Sorry, guys. It's not. Here's my transition. You know what? Don't be as. Oh, I almost let that one slip. Don't be the Spurs. Like and follow and subscribe and comment. Please follow us at Villa Villa. That's my channel. Sorry, follow us at Swinging at Shins. I didn't mean to say Villa Villa. Sorry, I was really caught up on that one. Getting way too many plugs for that.
I got you in that mood. Aaron.
I guess so. I'm feeling pretty
behind me. I got you talking about Villa. It's like a perfect night.
I think we just close it up here, guys. We're done. See ya.
Yeah. It's over.
We don't even need to talk about the Spurs. Screw them. No. Let's hop into the Spurs. So they finally pick up their first loss with 11 men because I know they were complaining about that last week. So now there are no more undefeated 11-man teams out there.
Actually, that's false. Liverpool.
What do you mean?
With 11 men.
What? Yes.
Liverpool's one loss this year is with 9 men against Spurs.
All right. Well, I don't have anything for that. I wasn't prepared for that. It's not something I was ready for.
I was a singer.
Okay. Well, fine. You win this one, but Spurs are not winning anything right now.
But then again, we've drawn against Luton, so that's technically a loss. So I guess
so. Yeah. Spurs have multiple injuries across the board. They have multiple suspensions across the board, which play into both of their losses. They're running out there with Eric Dyer as their center back, and I can't remember the other guy.
Spit up on my camera.
Nice job. Never mind. Not going to say that either. They also have Mickey Van de Ven down. That was the big one. They lost James Madison, another big one. Mm-hmm. They are down Christian Romero because of a red card, and Richarlison's out. So they're missing a lot of key pieces in this.
Do you mind describing what Richarlison's injury is?
Well, apparently it's a groin injury, but I don't have anything more than that.
Do you want to know the details that came out on Sky Sports?
Is it a sore pride?
Yes. I mean, so Sky Sports, like to put out the weird headlines every now and then.
Yes,
they put out, well, this one's pretty weird. I should send it to you and have you read it because you haven't seen it yet, right?
No, I have no idea. Other than
I'm going to send it to you and I'm going to have you read it. I have it saved on my phone because I'm
really good at reading things out loud for those people who.
Oh no, you're gonna love this. You're gonna love.
You know what I wish you did? That's funny. Just like hold it up to your camera so I can read it out loud. I would die laughing.
Okay, that's.
All right, let's see. Breaking news from Sky Sports.
Yep.
Richarlison has confirmed he is set for surgery on a long-term issue with his pubic bone. That's not his groin. That's his spine. Okay, fine. Have you ever actually bruised your pubic bone?
No.
Oh my God, it's the most painful experience ever because you can't sit, you can't shit, you have to have a donut for everything. It hurts. I will tell you right now from experience, do not bruise
his ass hurt.
Yes, he is a little butthurt.
He's a little butthurt. I couldn't stop laughing.
To be fair,
I kept asking, is it because he hasn't scored or what? Why is he so butthurt?
I actually kind of feel bad for him. This came at probably the worst time for him personally because of the statement he had come out recently about having not mental problem. I don't really know he's having a lot of mental fatigue and there's a lot of wear and tear on his psyche. So this does not play into his mental mindset at all. This is kind of a bummer for him to have this happen. However,
did you just say bummer?
I did say bummer. That was not a pun, people.
That was
just came
you
naturally.
didn't even know you did it. It came off so smooth.
Nope. Fun fact going on right now. Villa play Spurs next week, or the week that match day comes up. Oh
That's
yeah,
when they come back.
yeah. So
Ooh.
that's a
When
fun.
is that
That'll be a
game?
fun. That's at London.
What time is that on? Is that on
Oh,
Saturday?
sorry. It says 9.
Oh, so it's Sunday. Sunday at 9.
Come on, man. Why are you going to ask? I don't have any of these answers for you. You're asking me questions I don't have. What's the 26th? That is Sunday.
Sunday.
Yes,
Sunday
that's
night.
Sunday. Yeah. It's 25th. Yeah. Anyway, Andrew's got some real uphill battles going on for him with a lot of injuries that are a lot of injuries and a lot of scenarios that have played against him. And we discussed last time about his style of play being down 9 men. And I think that it really shot themselves in the foot. This one was just kind of, for lack of a better word, they just kind of sucked at the end. They thought they all fell asleep and forgot that they were playing Wolves, who play really well at home, because we've obviously seen them draw against Villa. They beat City, and now they beat Spurs, all at home. This is a type of Wolves team that will eat you alive at home. And Spurs did not take advantage of the flow in the match in which they had in the beginning. Like, they were dominant. And I thought they were going to score at least like 3, and just they fizzled out. And I don't know what to say to that, to be honest.
I absolutely love Gary O'Neill. I love Gary O'Neill. That guy is there's very few managers. Like, you look at outside the top, the top 4 teams, 5 teams, and you look at the managers that are throughout the league. He needs to be in the De Zerbi category, the Unai Emery category. As managers, if you need to win one game, that's one of the guys you want on your squad. He's going to set you up tactically to succeed no matter what, and he's going to make sure the players are in the right position. And I don't know if you heard the audio from the locker room post match in the Spurs game, but it's fantastic. Like, the guy makes you want to play for him, and there's not many managers in the world that you can say, this guy, I really want to play for this guy. I want to go out there and fight for this guy. There's very few managers. There's probably, in honesty, there's more of them in the Premier League than there is throughout the rest of the world. I would say that.
A lot of
you look at
coaches
the
like
top,
to come
the top
to
4.
the Premier League.
Yeah, I'd say there's more of them in the Premier League than anything. He's one of them. He's one of them. He's definitely one of them.
Interesting take.
The way he played his Bournemouth team last year, unreal. The way they played.
I was going to bring that back. Yeah, unreal. I was going to bring that up.
Go ahead.
I think that Bournemouth really did O'Neill dirty by firing him at the end of the season, because if you look at that Scott Parker squad, which is who they started out with, guys, and they got flamed by Liverpool, and then he got canned. Immediately went to Royal Antwerp. No, don't really remember. It's somewhere in the.
No, I think it's somewhere in like Sweden or Belgium. Yeah, you're right.
It was the Jupiler League.
No, it was Club Brugge. Club Brugge. Yeah.
Didn't handle it there either. Got fired there too. So got fired twice in one season.
In 1 year.
Gary O'Neill stepped in. And yes, some of his play style isn't very flashy, but he certainly will set you up to try to get you to win. And I think that Wolves probably could have done better if they had Pedro Neto on the squad list as well, but he's injured with a hamstring injury. So do you think that this Wolves team is better than the Bournemouth team that he had last season? Because I think it's about equal, personally.
It's close. It's real close. The one thing that I would say, if you were to take the teams that he was going into when he took over, because you got to think of it. Remember, he would have still had Mateus Nunes, when he started the year. I would have thought with Nunes, that Wolves squad is pretty darn gonna be tough to break down.
Yep.
Midfield's pretty damn good. Lamina has turned it around from a washed up Southampton defensive mid number 8-ish type player. We didn't quite know what he was to a guy. You remember he actually he honestly came from Juventus to the Saints, and then now ends up at Wolves. And the guy, he's almost kind of revitalized himself. It's kind of interesting to watch the way he plays. Very intricately moving throughout the squad and throughout the different midfield positions. He's a very good player. I would honestly say that this is probably the more suited team to Gary O'Neill's playing style.
Yeah.
I just think if you see how quick he's actually got this team, bought in, I think is more suitable to his playing style. I honestly, going into the year though, I wouldn't have said that. That.
Well, I think it's a little bit easier for Gary O'Neill because Lopetegui had just said, "Screw you, Wolves. I'm out of here," and it's not even the players' fault. It's not the players' fault. It was owners and owners. Excuse me. It was the owners' fault because they didn't want to spend a lot of money and they kept selling off players like, oh my gosh, Neves. Neves is gone. Neves, yeah. They didn't do anything with that. I'm sure they had to put it towards payroll. And Traore, they didn't sign back. They let him go for free. So, I mean, I get Lopetegui's frustration and why he left, but it also made it easier for Gary O'Neill to step in because it's like, oh, dang, nobody wants us except for Gary O'Neill. So it's like, let's believe in this guy because he wants to come coach with us or he wants to train us, so something like that. I assume this is what I think happened. Of course, it could have been like, hey, Gary, you need a job, right? And Gary's like, yeah, I definitely need a job. Can you hire me? That's how I think also that goes down.
I think Gary O'Neill saw the opportunity here because obviously the way it went down with Lopetegui was kind of shit, to be honest. So
yeah, I don't think so. Brett doesn't think so either.
I just don't like the way that I don't like the way that everybody really handled it. Obviously, I think Wolves handled the situation terribly. But I don't think Lopetegui really. Why, if you know what this organization is going and what the club is going to give you going into the transfer window, why not leave then at the end of the year? They're not going to give you much. Your financial standing. All managers know their financial standing before they go into a transfer window. So I kind of put a little bit on thing
and then maybe they said one thing and then and Lopetegui got another, and then that's how it happened. It also could be.
It wasn't a surprise that they didn't have money. That's the thing.
That is true. There has been a lot of articles saying that they are quite financially cash poor.
Yeah.
So, Spurs have problems right now. So that's great for the rest of the league. And that makes the top 4 or 5 even tighter because
long may it continue.
From 5 to first, it's only 3 points, guys. And it's anybody's game. And it's fantastic. And somebody did dirty. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Goal USA or something like that on their Instagram. Didn't include Aston Villa in that. They're like, top 4 is heating up. And I'm like, Villa's only 3 points behind too, right? Where's that cred? But whatever. Anyway, do you want to do true false, or do you want Do you want to end off with I only have 2 of my favorite Premier League matches.
Either one's good for me.
All right. We'll do true false because Brett loves it, and why the heck not? And I'm actually prepared for true false for a change. I just need to actually pull up the tab that says true false. I will give you a true false right now because I remember on the top of my head. Man City made an error selling Cole Palmer. True or false?
False. I'm gonna. Yeah, I know, right? Reason being, I'm gonna say this: Cole Palmer would have been in the same role Jeremy Doku, relatively would have been playing, right? So, if I'm checking, I remember Doku went for about a little under 40 million, and they sold Cole Palmer for what, 45 million. So
I thought
$4
Doku
million
went for
you're paying
60.
for Jeremy Doku. I would take that in a heartbeat. I think Jeremy Doku's. I mean, he's still young. I think he's more going to be more of a product that Pep wants to use. I think Pep wants more of a traditional winger now that he has that the main striker that he's always really wanted.
Yeah.
You look back to the teams that he had previously when he had Leroy Sané on one side and Mahrez and guys on the other.
Oh,
He was able to use the flanks as more of an attacking threat, and now it's basically it's all on Haaland. Well, now he's got basically all that he needs. He's got a winger that can create, a winger that can score. So I'm gonna go false. I'm gonna say that they made the right decision actually in getting rid of Palmer.
I get it. Okay, so financially, I understand why they sold Palmer because it's 40 million right towards the books. There's no balancing of, you bought this player for 20 and then you sold him for 40 and then you only really reap 20 million. This is why a lot of academy players get sold, is because it's a net gain no matter what. So I understand the financial end of it. But as far as a player goes, I think they made the wrong decision. I think that he could have stepped in for De Bruyne and played that 10 role much better than, I actually don't know who plays their 10 role because they all rotate and it really doesn't matter who the hell is their 10
guy right now, right?
So
it
could
another Chelsea
but he's
guy.
coming off the bench. So is it Kovacic? Do you know? Like,
I don't know.
It's really who it is, and I didn't even think about this. It's Bernardo Silva. It's Silva, or it's Julian Alvarez dropping back. So
dropping back a bit, yeah.
Honestly, like I get the financial point, but as far as a talent goes, I think that they're kind of regretting this right now because of how well he has matured, and he probably could have stepped into the squad and made that squad a little bit better. To your point, or to your statement of 30 million for Doku, double that because it was 60 million.
Was it 60? Okay.
It was 60.
I mean, 20 million for a guy that's probably going to be one of the top 5-3 wingers in the Prem in the next year or two.
Hey,
I would do it. I still would do it. I mean, how many out and out right wingers are in the Prem anymore? I mean, you got Mo Salah, Bukayo Saka, maybe Diaby. I mean, I don't know if there's any other guys premier right wingers. I think he's one of the few that is now. It's almost like it's a quiet position. I think as far as elite Premier League players go.
Yeah. It's just weird. I think they would have been better off keeping him, but I again understand the financial portion of it. So, it is what it is.
That was a good one. I like that. That's a good one.
Thank you.
I'm gonna give you one now. I got one. Ready?
I hope so.
Mohamed Salah will finish with more goal contributions in the Premier League than Erling Haaland.
False. Because Ollie Watkins is going to be first.
That's the best answer. I'm ending it right there. That's the
best. All right. Well, fine. We're going to move on to the next true false. Brighton will finish outside of the top 10.
False. I do think they turn it around. Excuse me. I think definitely the some of the injuries they've got in the squad with Estupinian, some of the rotational issues. I think they're still trying to understand how to deal with Europe. So I think eventually they'll figure it out, whether they get knocked out of Europe or whether they're still in it. I think eventually they'll figure out whether their priority needs to be. Then again, I mean, you also got to consider that you got West Ham in there that are also doing the same thing. You've got Villa that are doing the same thing. Newcastle are doing the same thing for the first time in who knows how long. So a lot of it is new to all these teams, being in Europe. So I would say that crop of teams right there, I would even throw Brentford in there because they're still one of those teams that's always kind of in the mix per se.
Yeah.
So even though they're not in Europe, but I would say that I do think Brighton will end up figuring it out. I do think they stay in the top 10, and it honestly wouldn't surprise me if they end up finishing like fifth or sixth again.
I was looking up De Zerbi and where he had come from, and I wanted to see if he had any type of competition, English competition, and he does.
Yeah.
There you go. It's Shakhtar, and I didn't know that, so it's kind of interesting that he's handling it the way he is because he understands the competition and
I think he's beat
at such a high stakes
teams.
too.
Yeah, and I think he's beat some pretty damn good teams there. I think he might have even beat Real Madrid or Barcelona or one of those teams.
It's very possible.
So he's one of those managers that is very. I mean, he's very underrated. I get the situation he was in was tough with Ukraine, and he was one of those guys that when everything went down going on there, he wanted to stay with his the people of the city where he was at, and he's just a genuinely good guy, smart guy, clearly gets it. So I would.
Yep.
I love De Zerbi. He's one of the guys, say if Jurgen Klopp left tomorrow, there's a handful of guys I would ever want to take over my club in Liverpool. De Zerbi's one of them.
That's fair. I would agree with that too. I think De Zerbi definitely fits ticks off a lot of boxes for a lot of those high profile clubs, and we could see him getting pinged off maybe a couple of years down the road. But
I could see him. Think of it this way. I'm going to throw a little thing at you. I could see him if all doesn't go according to plan at this club, with Carlo Ancelotti leaving to go to Brazil before they're at the end of the season. If everything doesn't go right internally with Real Madrid, remember they have I believe I think it's Luis Figo is one of the coaches there. Luis Figo might be taking over Real Madrid next year. If for some reason he doesn't, I could see one of two guys outside of Real Madrid take over. I could see De Zerbi and Xabi Alonso take over for Real Madrid in a heartbeat. Both those guys are the quality, are that type quality. So I would definitely say that De Zerbi is up there as far as guys that I think should be considered for any managerial job in not only the Prem but the world right now.
That's fair. I would agree with all that stuff that's been said. I'm drawing a blank on my next one because I wanted to be specific about United and a certain manager, and I'm blanking on his name right now, and it's really painful. And it's the Real Madrid ex-coach, France.
Zidane.
Yes, Zinedine. So, true or false? When United fire Ten Hag, they will hire Zinedine Zidane.
False. I don't think. I think Zidane's he wants two jobs. I think there's two jobs that he really wants. I think the French national team is one. I think that's a big one. That's one that I always thought he would end up, considering how it ended with him with France and the headbutt at the World Cup final. I always thought in the back of my mind, whether he left Madrid or not, at some point in his career he's going to go back to France. He's going to be the head coach. If Didier Deschamps just needs to, I mean, if he doesn't lose that much. I mean, considering everything he's done. I mean, the guy's won a World Cup. He's been, one of the better managers, I would say, and outside of league football in the last 8, 9, 10 years almost. I think he's been almost flawless. Dealt with a lot of injuries at the World Cup this past winter, so I don't know if I can necessarily say that that one's going to open up soon, but I think that's the one he's waiting for. Otherwise, I think it's probably going to end up being Madrid if Madrid happens again. I mean, we know Ancelotti's leaving, possibly at the end of the year to go to Brazil. So I mean, obviously you throw his name in the hat there with De Zerbi and with Xabi Alonso, and I'm pretty sure it's Luis Figo. I can't remember who picked the coaches that they've been kind of grooming. I think it's Figo.
Sure.
Sure. But that would make the most sense to me.
Fair enough. All right. This will probably be the last one. Yeah, it's going to be the last one.
Let me give you one quick.
Yeah.
All right. True or false? One of the 3 promoted teams will not be relegated this year.
Bro, why you got to do that? Because honestly, I really want to just shoot off the hip and say false. They're all going to get relegated. Because honestly, man,
it's close. It's tough. Burnley shit. Sheffield shit. Luton Town's kind of like bobbing for apples here.
Yeah, well,
Bournemouth, who was down there, now just have won, almost 2 of their last 3.
Fulham can't score.
Fulham can't score.
Yeah, I'm going to say actually true. I think either between Fulham or Bournemouth might go down. I just don't see Fulham having enough in the tank. And I think that's going to be the tick that will go down. I don't know why I said the tick that goes down, but whatever. I don't know who's going to stay up, but I know I have a very strong feeling that Fulham, out of those bottom 5, are going to be the one that goes down, and somebody will wake up in that bottom 3 and stay up.
And the loss of Mitrovic, I think, still is huge for them. I mean,
oh my God, the fact that I do not understand the signing of Raul Jimenez. It just
makes no sense.
It's a knee-jerk reaction to the loss of Raul Jimenez. I understand that they waited too long to go out and sign somebody, but you also knew this for like a month and a half that Mitrovic did not want to be there anymore. And I don't know what kind of snake charmer or silver tongue that you guys tried to use. It didn't work.
Yeah.
He was always going to leave for the more money. And to not be prepared in that manner just shows that you aren't entirely ready to still stay in the Premier League.
And don't get me wrong, I really like that Muniz kid that they've got now. I think he started against United.
What? He got injured.
Yeah.
Yep.
Played against United, got injured. It was a weird injury with like his body bent one way and his legs went the other. Really weird one. I don't know if it's knee or ankle. I didn't necessarily look it up, but that kid I thought played a very good game against United. I could see him being the guy going forward because I don't think Jimenez is not the same player. Wolves. Not. I mean, I know they only got a small amount of money for him, but they broke the bank for him. I mean, that's an absolutely great deal for Wolves getting rid of Jimenez when they did.
Heck yeah.
But I would say they need to go out and find a striker, whatever it is. This January, I think you're spot on. Actually, I think that's one of the big. If something needs to happen for a certain team this January window, Fulham need a striker. You know, they're putting a lot on Willian's back, and then Willian is not the player he was, 5, 6, 7 years ago. So I think it's a lot for them to really do, but it's something that's absolutely possible in the January window.
Yep, I agree. All right, well, with that, this has been Swinging at Shins, your Premier League podcast. Do not forget to like, subscribe, follow, all that hot jazz. Rate us, something, give us a comment. We'll say hi. I say that every time, and you guys still do not come through with that and say hi. I'm a little disappointed right now, honestly. Catch us on all platforms. We're out there. Peace. Well, guys, that was an episode of Swinging at Shins. We appreciate you for coming out and listening to us. If you guys want to hear or see more, we have links in the description below. We hope to hear from you soon and hear more about what you have to say.